Shanna Rowe Jackson here from Caution Artists at Play. I have been getting a lot of questions online lately about how long I've been an artist and why I decided to do art. The short answer to that question would be that I didn't choose art, it chose me. I don't ever remember a time where I didn't want to be an artist. I've been drawing or creating in one way or another since I was a very little girl. Since it's the new year, I thought that it would be fun for me to go through my artistic archives and share some of my older artwork with you. I chose one piece per year for as far back as I have records for, which is about 3rd grade. I decided to choose a theme of people because that seemed to be what was most consistent. It was a little bit difficult making some of the decisions because there were some years where I only did maybe 1 or 2 pieces, and then there were others where I literally did over 100 pieces. So here's my artwork throughout the years, and I hope you enjoy. Thanks.
This is the oldest drawing that I have in my possession. It is from 1995. I was in 3rd grade at the time, and the way that I was able to find that out is because one of my old school pictures from that year has me wearing the same outfit. So I thought it was kind of funny because I actually had the beading and the flowers drawn in, and even back then I liked to do landscape as well, as you can see by the background. This one is a fun one because there's multiple people in it. I think this was a project for 4th grade. I believe that it was about immigrants coming to Ellis Island, and this was a whole family that I had read about. We got to illustrate them coming to Ellis Island, and you can actually see the Statue of Liberty in the background. It was fun drawing an entire family, and I do remember having a lot of fun drawing the different outfits for each person. This is the first piece that I really remember distinctly creating. It was the summer before my 10th birthday. I was sitting on my porch, and I would spend hours playing with my watercolors, mixing skin tones, coming up with fun ideas like glasses and beards, and I wanted to draw a variety of people, women, men, a variety of cultures. This one was also the first piece that I ever did that became part of a series, my first series ever, called Many Faces, Many Cultures. I remember having a lot of fun with this one. I remember thinking that it looked like Marilyn Monroe, even though I had drawn it from my imagination. This is where I really started getting into shading, and it was a turning point for me. In my scrapbook, I had even named it The Best Yet. I chose this one because it shows that I have always loved to create landscapes as well as people, and that I have always liked to combine drawing and painting techniques. This one is probably not my best from the year 2000, but I thought it was fun because I was drawing it at the exact moment that 1999 became 2000. I chose this one because I could really see a turning point with this one. I definitely was more realistic at this point. I started working with watercolor pencils. I'm not sure if I did this from my imagination or from a magazine. I don't really have a reference source, but it was definitely a turning point for me. This one has always been one of my all-time favorites. It was done from my imagination, but the realism is definitely there, especially in the shading. I definitely was exploring different techniques with graphite. Her hair may have actually been done with watercolor pencil or watered-down charcoal. I'm not sure which. I know that I didn't have water-soluble graphite back then, but there was definitely some water media involved there. This one was a lot of fun because I had fun with angles there. I did do this one from a reference from a magazine, but I honestly do not have the reference source. This is another of my all-time favorites. At this point, I had been working in acrylic for about 3 years, so I had really started to excel in acrylic. This was a school project. He usually had us draw from sources that we saw in magazines or books that he had laying around in the classroom. So I don't use this one online because of copyright purposes, but I thought that it was a great example of where I was at that point in my life as an artist. This is another example of some artwork from high school that I don't typically post online because of reference purposes, but it's an example of the kind of work I was doing at that age. I actually won an award with this one my senior year in high school. This is one that I did after high school, but before I learned about copyright law, so I'm not sure about my reference source. This is not one that I usually post online or sell prints of or anything, but it was definitely great for learning, and it depicts one of my other favorite subjects, horses, so that's why I decided to include it here. This one is a self-portrait done in graphite, obviously part of a larger piece. I decided to include this one because 2007 was apparently a year that I was not very active in art, and this is pretty much all I had. This is also around the time that I hadn't been very active in art. It was a portrait done in acrylic of me and my two best friends. It is a special piece to me, but it certainly was not one of my best. This was another year where I hadn't been drawing a whole lot, so I didn't have a whole lot to choose from. This is a surrealistic piece that I did mostly from my imagination and my own references. It was something just to be creative and fun and not my usual style. This is one that I have to give credit to as far as making me the artist I am today. I had just met my husband at this time. We were dating, and this was a portrait that I did of him and I. And before then, for the past couple years, I had barely been creating, maybe just 1 or 2 pieces a year. After this, it was like my creativity exploded. I was drawing and painting all the time. It was like I got my muse. So I love this picture so much because it really helped me get back to what I love. This is another self-portrait. By this time, I had learned more about copyright, so I started narrowing it down to my own reference photos. So as far as models went, I was my best option because I had a lot of selfies lying around. This was also one of my husband's favorite photos of me, which is one of the reasons why I chose to paint it. This was a year where I was especially prolific. I think in 2012, I did well over 130 pieces, mostly in acrylic. I chose to include this one, though, because this was my first real taste of colored pencil as an adult. I think these were some no-name brand colored pencils with some markers, and I didn't really know what colored pencil was capable of, but this certainly left me interested in doing more. I started exploring oil paint probably around 2011, but didn't do a whole lot with it until about 2013. This one is one of my all-time favorite oil paintings of my father and my Chihuahua taking a nap together. This is the year that I discovered colored pencil and what it can really do, and it changed my life artistically, especially realism-wise. This is a drawing that I had originally done in acrylic a couple years before, and you can definitely see the difference. Here is another portrait I did of my father, this time in colored pencils, and with this drawing I could really see my skills developing as a colored pencil artist. My father has had the most interesting life of anybody I know, and I really wanted to depict that with the lines in his face and the details and the gray in his beard, and I don't think I would have been able to do that with any other medium but colored pencil. This is my favorite portrait of 2016 and possibly of all time. This is a portrait of my niece Bailey, and it has all my favorite elements to depict. It has texture, it has clothing, it has the portrait element, it has the landscape element, and I think that it really displays my skills as an artist. Okay, folks, that's all I have for now. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about me as an artist. If you like what you see and you'd like to see more, feel free to hit subscribe.